Hello, my little wordlings. Today I am going to talk about things I learned when I was writing my first book. Maybe they will help you. Maybe at the very least, it'll keep you sane while you're writing. And if you're writing your first one, if you've been writing before, but for some reason you're stuck on whatever project you're on right now, I hope this can move you forward. So, without further ado, I've always wanted to say that.
Bad humor numbs the pain. Anyway,
let's dive in. Number 1, remember your audience, but forget your reader. Now, I know you're looking at me right now and thinking, Garbage Lady, isn't that just meaningless doublespeak? Yes and no. See, I can keep doing it forever.
Stop it. Get some help.
You always want to keep your audience in mind. Especially if you're trying to target children, YA, if you're science fiction, you don't want to stray too far in one direction. Let's say you get really into this soapy, romancy stuff when you're supposed to be concentrating on the space battle. I don't write very much science fiction, but you get what I mean. You always want to keep your audience in mind, but don't think about the individual people who will be reading your book. So I had a lot of start, stop, and it's going to be another number we're going to talk about too. And I realized that the thing that kept plaguing me was I kept thinking, what if my mom reads this? And I realized at some point I had to forget that. I was not going to write about what I wanted to write, say the things I wanted to say, if I was worried about how a family member was going to perceive it, what their reactions were going to be. If there's stuff you don't want them to know, maybe try not letting them read your book, but if you lie or omit, you're going to be mad at yourself for not putting your whole self into something, especially in my case, I was writing a memoir. If you're writing something along those lines, if you would prefer maybe fictionalizing it a little bit so you can hide, and I thought that was going to be offensive, but no, if you want to hide behind that, if you need that barrier, if you need the blanket over you to keep the monsters at bay, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want people to know that this is your story, you're going to have to let other people go and let them deal as they see fit and just do you. Okay, number 2, write it all, worry about editing later. That was another thing I had troubles with, is I would write something and I'd say, oh, that's not good, and then I might delete it, or I might leave it in and then be mad at myself that I left it in. Just put all that down, take a deep breath. Now, you can always edit. Write it all. Put it all in. I don't care if you think it's cringe. I don't care if you are thinking that, oh, why am I going to bother putting this in? I'm going to take it out anyways. Put it in. Because even if you decide to take it out, you might have written something around it that only would have worked had you left that in. You might not even take it out, but you might rework it into something else. You can edit later. What you're doing right now is just putting pen to paper, finger to keyboard. Finger to keyboard does not sound as nice. Pen to paper will always be better, as far as euphemisms go. Obviously, typing is a lot faster than writing. Although, like I've always said, I'm handwriting my novel right now, which I'm very in the preliminary stages. And I've already started talking about it. So this is going to take at least a year, if not 2. So you guys are going to get sick of that real fast. But let's rewind for a second. Yes, just pour your heart out into what your idea is. Just take it where it goes. Take the characters where they want to go. And then worry about putting it all together later. Now, if you're the kind of person who needs to start with some kind of structure, there's nothing wrong with doing an outline. I don't work well with outlines, but some people they thrive on those. So you make your outline, and then each section, so your introduction, chapter 1, a certain character, those things, do your mind dumps and put everything that you want to say, but still have your outline so you can have your structure and know that you're going somewhere with it. Next one. Self-publishing does not invalidate your book. Once you get to the point where you're starting to farm it out, and there's some people, certain publishers, magazines, whatnot, who will take pieces of your story in for consideration to have you submit the whole story. So you might already be at the point where you're sending your feelers out, so to speak. And then you realize, people aren't responding. Maybe I should just stop. Don't stop. Finish your book and self-publish it. And then you'll just have to do all the marketing yourself. And it's going to be harder and it's going to suck. But what you wrote is going to be out there. Just don't let it discourage you. If you end up self-publishing, that's fine. You're going to still put your book out there and you'll still have readers who want to read it. It's just going to be a different way for you to get to those readers. Next one. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but lots of small publishing houses will take unsolicited manuscripts. So if you're writing and your goal is to have it published, listening to tutorials and whatnot of people saying you need to get an agent, you need to, if you go look at Penguin Random House, they're never going to look at your stuff without an agent, but an agent's never going to look at your stuff without publishing credits, and it swirling in your mind and is discouraging you from pursuing what you're doing right now. No, I didn't edit there. What are you talking about?
Let's not ruin this incredibly magical moment with reason.
Again, don't let it discourage you. There are means and there are lots of publishing houses. I know I'm in Canada and there are publishing houses that'll take unsolicited manuscripts. So if you're in America or in the UK, I have to assume that there's way more. You don't even have to stay in your home base. Lots of places will accept international manuscripts. You don't have to stick in your home country. Marketing wise, it's good to stay in your home country because a lot of people will support local. Write your book. This other bullshit will come later. Let's continue. Yes, you have to carve out time to write. And I gotta remember this one myself. You can't just think, oh, I'll write in my spare time. You will never have spare time. I'm sorry to be the person to tell you this. You will never have spare time.
I don't want to hurt you either.
You have to purposely make time to write. And see, Bela Lugosi judges me because I'm not following my own advice. I did 16 minutes of writing today. That's nothing. And yes, I timed it. I feel all the judgy eyes. Let's see the next one. Don't be shy to get feedback. This one hurts me a little bit too because I didn't want people to read what I was doing. But I had friends who were writers who offered, and I did. And you know what? Their feedback was fantastic. And when they said they liked something that I really liked that I had written, it made me feel good. And it should make you feel good too when someone gives you a compliment like that. Someone's going to read your book eventually. May as well let them start reading it now to help you get better. Look on Facebook, you might have local writing groups that you don't know about, and you can do critique nights and read each other's works and, create a community out of it. Or you can just get a friend or a family member to do it too. But that feedback is invaluable even if it's only from one person. Let's continue. If you're a person who so I don't have a really fancy title for this one. I don't know what's going to go across the screen right now. What are your false starts? What keeps you writing and then stopping and then writing and stopping? Now, when I finally analyzed why I was doing that, it turns out it was because I finally realized, I don't want people to read what I'm writing or my mom to read what I'm writing. And then I had to, do some self-exploration to get over that. That might be the same issue for you, or you might have a different issue. Are you paralyzed because you think what you're writing isn't good? As I've said before, the only time you'll know if it's good or bad is when it's done. It's never good when you're the first couple pages in. It's never good when you're the first 100 pages in. It's good after a couple of editing rounds. It's good when you've completed it to your satisfaction, or you know what I mean, not your satisfaction. To the point where you felt the need to stop. That's the better way to put it. So if you've taken stuff and deleted it, taken stuff and thrown it out, or sat down to do it and then couldn't do it, take a minute to yourself and try to figure it out. If you have to, and I know it's a little counterproductive for some people, but write down what's going on in your head. That's journal stuff. That shit you can throw out or keep in a journal and have some future person read it and realize how crazy you were. Talking to you, Emily Dickinson. Take some time, because if you still have that false start and then for some reason you get over it and then you go and let's say you write 50 pages, you're going to hit it again for whatever reason without knowing what it is. So you need a little introspection on that if this is something that you struggle with. What's next? This might seem very obvious, but keep your writing together. Try to have only 1 or 2 workbooks. I have a journal in my room. I have a journal in my purse. And then sometimes I'll get inspiration and I can't find my journals because I left them all in one place and I'm in another place and my legs are paralyzed or something. I can't blame it on FND. Honestly, I did this before FND too. I'll write it on a piece of paper and then shove it in my pocket, and then I'll be mad that I can't find it. Try to keep all your book in one place, all your story, all your poem in one place, in one book. Trust me, it'll save you a headache later, especially when you remember writing something and then the fact that you can't find it makes you feel crazy. May or may not be a true story. And finally, don't add what you don't need. And yes, I put this one last at number 9, and I didn't put a 10th one because I thought it'd be funny.
Even funny!
So, when I say don't add what you don't need, in my mind, I wanted to have 100,000 words in my book. I kept striving for that 100,000 words. I actually went through my book at one point and took out the contractions so I could get a few more words in, until I realized that I was butchering something that I was actually really happy that I had created. So I got up to 93,000 words or something like that. It's good to have a goal, but don't hold yourself so steadfastly to that goal where you lose perspective of what you're doing, which is writing a good story. So I hope some of these helped. I know a lot of them seem obvious, but they didn't seem obvious until they happened to me. And maybe it's just me. If it's just me and you're laughing at me right now, that's okay. Used to it. I talk a lot with my hands, I know. See, when I record, the camera I use is very slow, so this actually looks really psychedelic right now. But I digress. I hope you all have a steady brain day, and thank you for listening to me, and I will see you next time. Bye!